employed the same kind of strategy, I think people would really be up in arms. But my sense is the reason that there's not as much outrage over this is because of the difference between generics and branded products. Branded products are just so much more expensive than generics. The generic looks relatively less expensive. So I think that that's probably one of the reasons why there's not as much controversy about this. But you're right. You're right to point that out. We talk about these things. We're passionate about this. One of our founders, Bill Falloon, has a monthly column, As We See It, and it typically is an opportunity to write about some of these issues. We know as an organization, one of the biggest challenges facing this country is the health economics of medicine, and the fact that people, unfortunately, are using our healthcare system almost as a de facto fallback rather than taking care of themselves, being proactive in their health. The healthcare system, it really will be bankrupted. And it's not just, talking about pharmaceutical interests, but that's also what people are doing. People are not taking care of themselves. They need to be more proactive about their health. They need to eat a better diet, get exercise. Nutritional supplementation is a very important, critical strategy to supporting optimal health, and we believe that passionately.
We now know that those that are paying attention and reading and trying to stay as current as they can, that the whole matrix, the entire paradigm related to hormones is very different today than we knew 20 years ago, 25 years ago, even 30 years ago. We have totally different information today. Can you share with the audience a little bit about some of your findings about hormones?
Oh, absolutely. We actually have written a position paper, which if people are interested, they can go on our website, which is www.lef.org. And we have a paper that we devoted to this very topic of bioidentical hormones, in particular bioidentical hormone replacement. And that means using hormones that are chemically, molecularly exactly the same as your body produces. We know that offers a much better strategy than hormone replacement with synthetic patented compounds that are available. I think many, many women, for example, are well aware of the disastrous results of the Women's Health Initiative that was published a number of years back, showing that peri- and postmenopausal women who were treated with non-bioidentical hormones, including equine-derived estrogens. That means estrogens that are derived from horses. People are not horses. I know that's fundamental, but a lot of, at least in the pharmaceutical industry, perhaps they confuse the two. I don't know. But the results of the WHI using these horse-derived estrogens, as well as progestogens that were synthetic, in particular medroxyprogesterone acetate, which is not the same as bioidentical progesterone. The results of the Women's Health Initiative using medroxyprogesterone acetate, as well as horse-derived estrogens, was really disastrous. An increased risk of cardiovascular events. Cancers went up, breast cancer went up as well. We know, based upon our review and assessment of the literature, that replacement, if it's indicated in a woman, for example, with so-called bioidentical hormones, whether it's estradiol, estriol, that offers a much better strategy than using these synthetic hormones.
I take progesterone, and I'm so glad I do. I really am glad I take bioidentical progesterone.
Well, progesterone, of course, you are well aware of the benefits of progesterone. We've talked and written about that. We actually, as I said before, drafted a complete position paper on this whole topic, highlighting all of the scientific research in support of natural bioidentical progesterone, in contrast to some other synthetic progestogens, such as medroxyprogesterone acetate. When you delve into the literature, it's amazing what you will find. And it's very disturbing to me as a doctor when I see very, very important, influential thought leaders in women's health get up on national programs or in being quoted in major mainstream periodicals as suggesting that bioidentical hormone replacement has no data in support of that strategy. That's absolutely not true. And what I'd suggest to anyone, if they're interested in learning and understanding more about this, go on our website because we have a complete article that's devoted to this very issue. Point by point, it reviews all of the literature on bioidentical hormones and talks about the findings. And many of the studies, what might came as a surprise to some colleagues in conventional medicine, there are actually head-to-head comparison studies that have been done looking at, for example, natural bioidentical progesterone versus medroxyprogesterone acetate. And again, the results of the studies are pretty remarkable and pretty impressive.
Do you think that most doctors look at the results of current studies? Do you really think they look?
Well, sadly, and again, as a physician, I think that there is a heavy pharmaceutical bias, pharmaceutical influence, and this goes all the way to the medical schools. This is seen throughout, for example, continuing medical education. Doctors need to have CME credits to maintain their licenses. And one of the things that really strikes me is the standard of care, or so-called standard of care. There was a paper that was published in a major scientific journal about 2 years ago that talked about standard of care. And what that means is what's accepted to do with a patient if a patient has a particular condition. What was amazing to me was that only 11% of standard of care recommendations are based upon the highest quality of scientific information. Furthermore,
that's terrible.
More than 48% of standard of care recommendations were based upon the lowest level, and the lowest level essentially is what a couple of thought leaders or people who are believed to be influential in that particular area of medicine, what they think. Think about this. That is almost 50% of what is considered to be standard of care in medical practice is based upon what a select group of academics or influential people think is the right thing to do. Is that amazing? I think that's amazing.
It goes on everywhere, though. It goes on everywhere.
It's amazing, but it's also disturbing.
Extremely disturbing. For example, D3, at least this is what I remember reading in one of the articles in your publications recently, that by taking adequate levels of D3 and other things, that you could help your immune system be strong so that you don't catch any of these flus. You don't ever hear that mentioned on the major networks, ever.
Yeah, it's not something that's discussed. It's something that we've looked at. We know the value of vitamin D in helping to support immune function. And there's it's just completely fascinating data that strongly suggests that vitamin D may have protective effects, not only in terms of the immune system, but in a whole variety of different areas. Cardiovascular, of course, most people are aware of bone health.
Do you mean D3?
Vitamin D3, so-called, it's not so-called, it's what it's called, cholecalciferol. That's what's typically ingested in dietary supplement form. But when we talk about mediating biological effects in the body, vitamin D3, or cholecalciferol, needs to be converted or metabolized into different things. And the most biologically active form of vitamin D is 1,25-dihydroxy vitamin D, also known as calcitriol. In order to go from cholecalciferol to calcitriol, you need to go through two steps that are controlled by enzymes as well as hormones. So when we talk about vitamin D, and I'm glad you brought this up, we talk about vitamin D as a supplement. We typically mean vitamin D3, also known as cholecalciferol. But vitamin D in the body, it needs to be converted to 25-hydroxy vitamin D, which